Hello and welcome back to Black Men Speak. This is episode 6. I'm Catherine Robertson-Pilling, and this is our sixth in a line of conversations with three men that I am privileged to call my friends: Allie Joseph, Joshua Kamara, and Cal Harris Jr. When George Floyd was murdered, I reached out to these three men who I've known for years, and the idea for these conversations was born. Joshua Kamara is an entrepreneur in Sheffield, England. He started out in property investment as a teenager and has sourced more than 400 property deals in the UK, including a property that my husband and I bought in 2016. Josh developed a powerful philosophy of life based on discipline, dedication, and determination through a lifetime of high-level competitive sports, including a high-level boxing career from the age of 16. Josh quickly became a dear friend of mine, and I'm honored to support him in launching his vision to empower youth through his program of mental and physical exercise. Allie Joseph is a priest in the Anglican Diocese of Johannesburg, South Africa. He was born and grew up in the harsh landscape of South Africa's Northern Cape. He calls himself a child of the African soil, yet he has spent much of his life working in the Catholic Church on 4 continents. He's classically trained in philosophy and theology, and he believes deeply in the power of human potential. I met Allie in the south of France in 2013, and we've had many deep conversations since then. I cherish his friendship. Cal Harris Jr. is a contemporary jazz artist. He's toured the world as an engineer, programmer, and producer with musical legends like Lenny Kravitz, Earth, Wind & Fire, Prince, Whitney Houston, and Beyonce. He's released 3 successful CDs with multiple hit singles, and Billboard magazine ranked him as number 4 in his genre for the year of 2018. Cal grew up in Los Angeles and now lives in Phoenix, Arizona. We met in a process group in 1995, and we've stayed connected through many open and meaningful conversations through the years. For my story and why I, as a white woman, am facilitating this conversation, I invite you to watch the first episode of Black Men Speak. Again, I want to emphasize I'm not an expert, I'm not a scholar, I may get some things wrong here, but I can ask questions and I know how to listen. And this is the time for sharing and exchanging our stereotypes for relationships with real people. From our first couple of episodes, we decided to create this series as a series of shorter episodes about relevant themes. And today we're going to talk about microaggressions. So here we go. So tell me, it took me a while, even honestly, in my sheltered kind of way, to be able to get the term right, microaggressions. And I thank you for each of you having explained to me your experiences. So I would like to make some of that conversation available to the people watching this program. How would you like to start talking about it?
Well, I'll start off by saying that yeah, that's an interesting term, microaggressions. I'm kind of catching my footing with that as well, and one of the things that I found myself wanting to say in the last series is recognizing how much stereotypes, which we were talking about before, and microaggressions, which I guess are based on stereotypes, how much that phenomenon I feel is a part of the human condition, as opposed to it being something that white people do or Black people do, or you know, it's a very human thing, and I can say that because I feel that I've suffered. If there's a proportional aspect of this, I'd say that I've experienced the microaggressions from people of my own race as much or more than I have from white people, partially because of my upbringing, but I find that, like you were saying, Catherine, it's human nature to want to make ourselves feel safe, putting ourselves in a box or putting other people in a box. And hey, I know who that is. I know what I can expect from them. And it cuts down on the work you have to do in assessing, who you're dealing with, and the harder work is really getting to know each person as an individual. And having had an opportunity to travel to so many places, I really experienced that the more people I know, the more variety there is in the types of people that I know from the different backgrounds, the less prone I am to commit those microaggressions, and anyone can suffer from them. And I think we're in a time right now where, rather than focusing on just not doing that, there's a lot of energy being focused in shifting who we're doing it to. And so, like I mentioned, the whole Karen phenomenon, that's something that everybody just feels great about being able to do, and it's like, it's freeing because it's this human phenomenon. And now we've got a new place to put that energy, which is we can attack white women for being white women. And
Cal, for somebody who doesn't know that reference, could you explain that, the Karen phenomenon?
Well, the Karen is a new word for describing an entitled, annoying white woman, that has this privilege and rocks this privilege and expects to get this special treatment, and thinks that they can do whatever they want, And I mean, it's not that there aren't people like that exist, but I really feel that it's also become a way to just beat up on a group of people. I want my coffee right at Starbucks too, and rather, and rather than attack somebody for that, I'd rather embrace that privilege for myself rather than to take it away from them. And I see the saddest thing about it for me is that I see white women embracing it, and embracing it in the way that I embraced the N-word. I made it okay for people to say it around me so that they would feel okay about me, and I put up with a lot of jokes and unfair, marginalization, just so that the people around me could feel better, and so that I could be one of the good ones.
Right.
And I see now white women trying to not be a Karen, and so that they can be one of the woke, so they can be woke. And I know a lot of people disagree with me. I can see you all out there on the internet shaking your fists at me, but that, my experience tells me that hurts no matter who you do it to. And I can't pretend like it doesn't, unlike it's not wrong. So
yeah,
I know it's popular.
And we do it to ourselves. For people who aren't familiar with the term microaggression, who would like to define and or give an example of that?
Say like a microaggression is an indirect comment or piece of behavior which is coming from a place of either ignorance or hate, or has some racial discrimination or malice behind it. So I'll give you an example of something that happened to me just last week, which falls under microaggression. So we were on the outskirts of Sheffield, one of the most affluent areas of Sheffield. There's a beautiful, countryside, and it's a place called Wyman Brook. And me and my friend, who is Sikh, we went out there very early. We trained. I think it was about 8 o'clock in the morning. We trained, and there's this beautiful rock which oversees the Pennines, and we're there just putting the wheels to rights. And we've walked down further into the woods. And this is the guy who made this comment was somebody who I've seen when I've been with another white person, and I've seen them engaging in conversation, no problem. So me and my ethnic brother are walking through the woods, and I've seen him before. So I look him in the eye and I'm like, "How you doing? You okay?" And he looks, "Yes, I'm fine. Are you okay?" And I'm saying, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he says, "Are you lost?"
Mm.
As if I shouldn't have been there, as if I didn't know where I was, and I was a bit caught off guard. And my friend, who's very, like, he doesn't need a reason. He's ready to go and challenge these types of these microaggressions. He was even just like, it's too early for this, it's too early for this. And we carried on walking, but it bothered me. And it's still to this day, I'm thinking, I knew exactly where I was. I train there regularly. I run through there, so it was just his implication. And another example of when I've been at corporate events and I've been asked if I'm the DJ. And actually I'm there to win an award. And like Cal said, it stems from the stereotypes which lead to these perceptions. And again, the way people are conditioned. And it's a human condition, it's human nature. Because I've had microaggression from, Black Africans who will say, "You're not African." They'll put you on the spot, ask you a question, "Howdy, buddy," you have to respond. Like, "Oh, you're not." And people are always, so it is human nature. It's human nature. But microaggressions are, again, for me on a daily basis, it's something like when I go into, me and my wife went to the hotel we got married at the other day, and we were the only Black people there. And it's just something, it's an armor you have to put on, because you're ready to receive these aggressions, you're ready to receive these comments, these looks, so it's something that's consistently there. And people will say it sometimes unconsciously, just because of the way they're being conditioned. And some people know exactly what they're saying, and some people find it humorous, some people say it to antagonize you. So there's many layers of microaggression, but it's in what I'm trying to say is it's normally an indirect racial slur.
Right. I want to share a little story that this makes me think of and just get your thoughts on it. I was at I have a friend who plays music, and we went to see him perform, and it was a little patio in a small town not far from here in Colorado. And I live in an area that is, we have a very small proportion of African-American people here. And so the audience was pretty much all white. And I saw across the parking lot, there was a couple. The woman was sitting on a bench and the man was standing. She had pretty dark skin, and he was, I would say, kind of mixed race, probably. And I saw them standing there and, listening to the music and enjoying the music. And it just really, I don't know, I just felt, I felt it, I felt the divide. And there's nothing for me to do. There's nothing that I can do, but I wanted to invite them over, which was probably totally inappropriate. Because that too, it's like making a spectacle I don't know, I just get lost there. And it's easy to spot some of these things when we hear them spoken of the way that you're speaking of them now. But there's this kind of no man's land that I don't know how to, don't know. So it's another angle, because I think for me to do that would probably be offensive, but I don't know. White girl question.
Well, I think that kind of speaks to what I see happening. I see a lot of focus on not committing the microaggressions and not enough focus on what you just did, which is the sharing of an experience. And, microaggressions in a lot of cases are innocent. I think that's probably why they're called microaggressions, as opposed to, throwing out an N-word at somebody, which is, what you're doing when you do that. If you say, people are always saying stuff to me when it comes to something about size, like, oh, well, you don't have to worry about that,
Yeah, you are the whitest black person I know.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, they're they'll be referring to my
you speak
size.
well for a person that's not white.
Yeah, and sometimes it's offensive, and sometimes it's like, oh, cool, you are acknowledging the work I put into, not looking like your worst nightmare, and it's I just fear that people are getting so good at not commit. We all walk around with these lists of things you can't say and things that we can't do, and we haven't learned. We don't feel any differently about each other, and the way you feel different about people is by knowing people. I don't like the Karen words because I know too many white women that I care about. If I didn't, I might throw it out there like everyone else and not think anything of it. But once you know people, it becomes harder to do that. And the list of microaggressions to avoid and things to not say and things to not look like you're feeling like stop us from getting to know one another.
Exactly.
And I think that's dangerous, like that perhaps that could have been a great friendship. The people that you saw at the concert, and it would have been risky to say something to try to make them comfortable, and to make them not feel like outsiders. But, the fear of making a mistake and saying the wrong thing stops you from stops a lot of people from connecting. And so there's got to be a balance, because I mean, you can't just walk out into the world unconsciously and just insult people. So you should be aware of it, but not hyper vigilant, like I see happening a lot.
It definitely does fuel more of a divide. I mean, we're all just, a lot of people are just balls of trauma, walking around carrying this pain, and they just need healing. And you could have started a dialogue with these guys, and they might be anti-white because of their experiences.
Right.
Or, for me personally, in that situation, if you've come up as a conversation, to me, it'd have been very warming, because if it's, and you can assume human nature again, it comes down to like, I would have picked up on, you're a genuine, human being, just trying to make a conversation, and you're being proactive in going against, making us feel uncomfortable. But it's hard, I might be in a different mood one day. I might have had several microaggressive dynamics that day, and I'm like, I can't even be around white people. I don't even want to be around white people today. Don't know. Or I could have been or you could have come in. So I don't think there's a general rule, I don't think there's a general rule to that.
No, I always say to people, like in South Africa, there's aggression, there's micro, there's macro, and there's like large scale, like global aggression. Like we can be very aggressive here. But we can also be very kind and very nice and very, very accommodating and very, there's very few places in the world I'd rather be than here because of how kind people can be, how accommodating and welcoming people can be. But we could be really violent. So microaggressions, when people ask me, so explain to me this thing, because like you people, you always find reasons for us to feel bad about being white. I say no, microaggressions are instances of aggression against LGBTQI plus people, against people that don't look like you, people that have disabilities, so it's like it's all over the place. It's just like we give it power in as much as it breaks down the possibility for making connections. And then that's basically it for me.
Something that hits me is my own awareness of times when I'm angry about something, but I'm not willing to say I'm angry about it. So I will say words that are niceties, but I will communicate something through those words that is, you should know I'm angry. That is a microaggression. And I can do that to my husband. I can do it to a friend. I can do it to a clerk that, it's like, rather than being, Cal, in the process group that you and I met in, one of the things that we learned in those groups was the idea that intimacy is not about warm, fuzzy feelings. Intimacy is about speaking the truth. And also being able to hear the truth, and Josh, you spoke earlier about, I think it was in the previous session, about boxing and emotions. Actually, maybe it was between sessions, but how the things that are said in the gym that are designed to get you, you've got to learn to manage those emotions. And that's what we're all dealing with here. Whether you're on the receiving end of a microaggression or whether you're on the delivering end of it, unconsciously or consciously.
I'm just gonna the aggression is always gonna be there because it's like friction. It's always gonna be part of the way we interact. But it's the power that we give them, the power that we give the microaggressions, because they will be the microaggressions, but we all know that like big fires start with small sparks. And so we can either make it these aggressions into an opportunity for distraction or for growth.
Ellie, you said something a minute ago about you were speaking about South Africans. We can be very aggressive, but we can also be very kind. And I just thought, the we that we assign ourselves, but that can equally be said about we human beings can be very aggressive and we can be very kind. And but we assign ourselves these stereotypes, even if we don't believe them or push back, but we're just in this soup together.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's one thing that I really would want to underscore is with all of these discussions is that these are human frailties. These frailties don't have a color. It's what humans do, and it manifests itself as microaggressions and racism and variety of things, but they're human, and we have to do the harder work. The harder work is recognizing that you are where you are, you know, and not being able to be where you are is a real problem. Is a real problem, and I worry that we're that we're losing, we're winning the battle, but losing the war in some respects when we focus too much on the technical aspect of, well, you should never say this and you should never do this, and where the real solutions are realizing that, hey, I really believe that Black people are dangerous, and really having
Get it
some
out there.
place to say that, and then and be willing to hear the response you get from it, but being able to be honest, because if we all walk around here lying to ourselves and to each other about where we really are, this is where we really are. If I was raised to believe that Black people are dangerous, that's who I'm going to be until I expose that truth about myself, and then have it be open to seeing it a different way.
Definitely. I think you said it, Catherine, the best when you said, and it goes back to the question which you asked, where I'd always support it because you're coming from a place of truth. And I've got a friend who we didn't speak for some time over Brexit, actually. So quite a few years ago, but his dad passed away recently. So, I went and paid my respects, and he's when we talk about a human problem, he's humbled himself over the years, and actually ended up with a Black woman and got mixed race kids now. And he always used to say very controversial things, but we used to go at it because he was coming from a place of truth. So I knew where he stood. He'd say things that people wouldn't dare say, and he'd support it. And we'd have these amazing dialogues. And now through that, he's come to a place of the way he's educated himself and the way he's felt a lot of the stuff instead of just hearing and saying is magical. And he was in my kitchen the other day, and we had some food, and I couldn't believe, where he'd come from in his level of understanding and empathy. And now he's got a mixed race kid, and the things he was saying and the way he's navigated through, all these views that he was conditioned. He wasn't born to hate. He lived in an area where he's socially deprived, and he just, it's the way he's conditioned. He saw all these stereotypes. His only interaction with Black people was the films, was the music. So he was just getting fed all this affirmation of the stereotypes. And now, through going through life and, being honest and coming from a place of the truth all the time and trying to seek the truth, he's now someone who his opinion and his understanding is completely changed.
Oh, it's beautiful to see, and we do mature with age. I'm probably the most mature of anyone on this call.
The wisest. I
don't know about that, but
the wisest.
But I guess I want to, because we're like at 28 minutes now, so I want to acknowledge that I think this is a very wise conversation about owning the human aspect of this, but I don't want to discount that what you experienced in that wood, Josh, and what, Cal, you've talked about, and Ali, you've talked about. There is a definite leaning in a certain direction, and that is being called to account right now in the world. And it does have to do with race, and we do need to become more aware. But the way that I see it is it's a doorway for us to own our common humanity and to recognize for ourselves how we do that. The same way whites are now beginning to acknowledge our privilege to a new degree, I hope. But I want to just give each of you a moment for any closing thoughts on this topic. We can come back here and talk about it again. Each of these is so rich, but I'd love to hear any final thoughts you have on the subject.
I'm just right now feeling the weight of You know, I'm looking back over things I've said in this session and sessions before, and realizing how easy it is for the balance to shift to, oh, okay, well, you're not acknowledging the problem. You just want it to go away. And then on the other side, it's like, oh, okay, well, you're just gonna play the victim role, and you know, and it's just it's not about choosing a side on this. And you know, if I hear something that I feel is a little out of balance in one way, then I'll try to counterbalance it into the other direction. But there really isn't a side. It's a balance, you know, like there's an airplane with engines on both sides, and if one engine outperforms the other, the plane starts to turn, you know. And if you want the plane to go straight, you have to keep a balance between these opposing things. So yeah, we have to recognize that it's, you know, we have to be forgiving and allow for people to make mistakes, and we also need to be conscious of those mistakes and call them out. And that those could seem to kind of contradict each other, but it's really a balancing of those polarities that will get us flying straight.
Thank you, Cal.
Definitely. I think just to understand the level of manipulation and conditioning everybody's had, and to also, you know, appreciate and just try and gain an understanding and decode from that. Who really benefits from us all being divided? Who really benefits from this system that we're living in? Because it's not us on the ground. So, you know, pulling it back and, you know, just seeking the truth, like you said today, that is the best place to be coming from and the best place to trying to attain. Because I would bet a lot of money, a lot of white racists would love a lot of the black culture if they allowed them to. And I bet a lot of the pro-black members would also enjoy and love a lot of cultures and from white people and different races and other communities. Community stands for common unity, and I think we all just need to realign with that. And yeah, that's my take on it.
Thank you, Josh. Anything from you, Allie?
I'm good. I'm good.
You're good. Okay. Well, I want to thank each of you. A term came up for me listening, which was the term politically correct. And I think so much of the risks that we might take to reach across the divide, and so much of what we could learn about ourselves in creating a real community gets just dumped into that basket as a catch-all to invalidate the process. But here we are going through this together in conversation, and to me that is where we will find our solutions. That brings us to the end of the time that we have today. Again, thank each of you, Cal and Josh and Allie, for being here today. For trusting me and for speaking your truth and for taking a stand for the possibility of coming together across the current divide. I want to thank each of you also who have watched to the end. It's each of you doing what you know how to do and taking risks in your life for what you know is right. That will turn the momentum of this moment into lasting change. This has been Black Men Speak. I'm Catherine Robertson-Pilling, and I hope you'll join us again next time.